I want to settle my tax debt for less than what I owe. That's what probably at least half the taxpayers who have IRS debt ask me about when they first speak with me. Officially, the program's called the Offer in Compromise Program, or OIC, and it's one of the most well-known yet most misunderstood IRS tax resolution option. The good news is that it is a real program, and it's definitely possible for some taxpayers to settle their tax debt for less than the full amount they owe. I know it works because I've successfully had offers accepted for some of my clients. But the reality is that qualification is far more limited than most advertisements suggest, and not everyone qualifies. Hi, I'm Bob Jablonsky with Jablonsky Tax Relief. I'm an enrolled agent and certified tax resolution specialist, and I work with taxpayers nationwide to resolve their IRS problems. We help our clients determine if the offer in compromise is realistic for them, and if it is their best option, we handle it the right way so that they have a successful outcome. So, what is an offer in compromise? An offer in compromise is an agreement where the Internal Revenue Service agrees to accept less than the full amount of the balance that you owe. Why would they do this? Well, they do it when they believe that they cannot reasonably collect the full amount of the tax debt and that the offer is a fair settlement based on their calculations. How is it calculated? Typically on a combination of looking at your assets and available equity based on a calculation, not your book equity so much, but a calculation. An example might be real estate is looked at as far as the equity is the fair market value times 80% minus the amount owed. And then they take that available equity and they add into it a monthly income less allowable living expense calculation, and that's multiplied by 12 or 24. This is called reasonable collection potential, or RCP. There's also some calculations to make sure that they don't believe they can collect more by working with you through other programs. So there's a few ways that they're going to look at this, and you need to be aware of those. The focus is really not on what you earned when you incurred the tax debt, but your ability to pay now and in the future. You're also going to have to be in compliance in order to get your offer processed and accepted. What does that mean? Well, you need to be in filing compliance. You need to have all your required returns filed, and you have to be making estimated tax payments properly currently or having withholding proper currently. So with an offer, it's not about how much you owe. It's about what the IRS believes it can collect. So let me give you an example of how an offer works. Let's say Robert, $125,000 in back taxes. I earned a good bit in business. I wasn't able to pay my taxes, and now I continue to owe it. However, during this time, my business completely collapsed, and I have a W-2 job, and my income barely covered my basic expenses, and I have little usable asset equity. What we could do in that case is, let's say there's no equity available, and let's say there's $100 a month available. Well, the offer there might be as low as $1,200, the $100 times 12 months. We would go to the IRS, we would submit a detailed financial analysis showing the IRS they were unlikely to collect the full balance and that this was a fair offer. And in a lot of cases, the IRS will accept his offer of compromise, allowing Robert to settle his tax debt for a fraction of what he owed. So something to keep in mind is that the majority of offer and compromise submissions are denied. They're either submitted incorrectly or without proper analysis, where their numbers are just plain incorrect on the offer, or the offer calculation is nowhere near what the IRS will accept. At Jablonsky Tax Relief, before we ever make an offer, we evaluate eligibility to make sure our clients are good candidates. And if they are, we help them to prepare accurate financial disclosures and submit a reasonable offer that the IRS will either accept or negotiate with. During the process, we communicate for you with the IRS and we keep that process moving along. And we'll even represent you in appeals if you get an unfair decision. If you're carrying IRS debt and wondering whether a settlement is truly possible, contact us today by either calling 972-821-1991 or by clicking the link in the pinned comment or description below, and we'll get a confidential consultation set up to find out if an offer and compromise truly makes sense for your situation.